Hello and welcome to AleksTabletops MTG Quick Study Best of 3 Direct Challenge 5. My name is Alex and let's start our 5th Best of 3 match. Okay, so switch, launch, and go. So in this matchup, RippyG faced opponent, which is a weird nickname, not as a part of a currently running Undercity Coliseum tournament, round 5, but this episode will still be related to the tournament. So the reason for this episode was basically my opponent that I supposed to face in the round 5 dropped. And it turns out that I'm not going to, of course, play any matches during this round, so it's just basically kind of opponent conceded, and I won 2-0 by forfeit. But of course it's not working for me, because for me personally, I still need to test my deck, I still need to go through some matches, I still need to provide some episode, like, because I want to create a consistency of episode. I want to get to the end of this tournament until I will be eliminated. So, and I'm still will try to provide matches. So in cases that I'm going to face opponents that are going to drop, or I'm not going to produce any matches, we're going to see matches against similar archetype decks with my second account, which is opponent, basically. So basically right now I'm playing against myself. This is weird, but still, I mean, this is the only way that I found fit to create this recording and actually make it like actually create 2 wins out of it. It was not easy. My deck lost most of the matches against this mono red. Again, my mono red versus my mono green, which tries to emulate the deck that opponent played, but again, opponent created a pretty consistent mono red. This mono red, it's a little bit different, because originally I supposed to face opponent with Experimental Frenzy, a mono red deck, with a lot of Goblin Chain Wranglers, but of course, since I don't have any of those cards, I mean, I have 0 Goblin Chain Wranglers, I have only 1 Frenzy thing, whatever, forgot the name. So because of this, I decided, okay, I have to just create a similar deck with a similar strategy and couple of different variations that could replace those strategies, and basically face it. So game will progress pretty quickly. So we actually got lucky with the hand. So usually when my deck is winning, it's winning usually because of the Tendershoot Dryad. If opponent is not going to be able to remove her, we actually have a potential to win this match. So in most cases, like, putting Tendershoot Dryad was pretty risky. I mean, I knew that opponent had something to destroy Tendershoot Dryad, and I had to put it regardless, because again, if opponent will have luck and get shock, then we're going to lose Tendershoot Dryad, or Lightning Strike, or whatever. But I actually hope that opponent is not going to get lucky, and instead of having something that could destroy Tendershoot Dryad, I will at least produce some Saprolines, so it was the idea. So while this match is progressing, quick reminder that MTG Quick Study is a series of 1-match episodes, best of 3 in this particular instance, that focuses on learning from my own matches by watching and trying to analyze them. The direct challenge part of the series is an interactive way for you to challenge me and have the chance to be a part of MTG Quick Study willingly, not just by random, and also show off your decks, skills, and learn from your mistakes. So we're getting kind of lucky with the fact that opponent still has like 4 mana and still didn't get anything to destroy Tendershoot Dryad. Usually mono red, usually when you're playing with as mono red, you will not going to utilize any direct spells until a certain threat will arise. So for instance, like opponent didn't utilize that many like direct spells, such as like Lightning Strike or Shock, and we actually got super lucky with everything that we drew. I mean, we drew the proper amount of lands, we drew Tendershoot Dryad, we produced a couple of Saprolings, we got Ascend, we got Multani, so we didn't even need to use Cast Down, nor Sandu, no Raska's Contempt, and again, we got 2 Raskas, 2 Planeswalkers, and now we're basically heading to win. It's all about when exactly opponent will get a removal for Tentriship Dryad, because again, the only problem for in this particular instance for the opponent is Tentriship Dryad, and okay, I guess opponent's planets to probably kill Multani. It's just the only thing that opponent can do at this particular point. So yeah, this match is kind of, I mean, so is the next match. They're going to be pretty, I would say, weird in terms of the play, because again, I guess opponent got mana flooded. That was the main reason, because it's a shame when these things are happening. But again, it's a good thing that my deck finally showed itself in a proper strength. I mean, like, usually when I'm getting proper cards, I'm actually like being able to play this deck in a proper way. But again, I still feel that this deck is pretty bad and inconsistent. I mean, I completely I already rebuilt this deck in a different way. I have a non-tournament version, so the version of this deck that we played right now was a tournament version of the deck. So yeah, now we will go into the second match. Come on, it was probably the first one. Yep. So yeah, the second match basically against the same opponent with the same deck. No changes been done. I kept the same deck in original tournament state. And we get again pretty decent hand. I guess we have Doomed Descender, which will allow us to protect ourselves against early aggressive attackers that opponent might put in play. We have Son of Freyalise in case we'll need to produce additional mana. We have Tentriship Dryad, which is again one of the win conditions for this deck. Again, it all depends if opponent will remove her from the game or not. Hopefully not. Again, hopefully the same problem will repeat itself in this match. The opponent is not going to draw direct spells, which opponent has like at least 50% of the deck. So when this is not happening, it's definitely a weird situation. So good thing that we got Ritual of Suit, so now we will be able to remove all threats that opponent potentially could place in the game. And one of the reasons why I'm not like still trying to put that many things in play, I probably will, yeah. This is the reason why I decided not to play Son of Freyalise. Although I probably should. I mean, okay, this is pretty bad. So maybe it was a good idea to not play Son of Freyalise, because now we'll be able to destroy Gather's Type. And we definitely need to destroy Gather's Type now. Of course, I want to remove as many threats as possible. I wouldn't want to use Ritual of Suit. It's better for me to get to the Tentriship Dryad without losing any creatures. All of my own, at least. Killing them. So here we removed a pretty main threat, because this deck in most cases oriented on Gather Snipe, so 4 copies of Gather Snipe and lots of instants and sorceries that basically triggers its ability in killing the opponent in the face almost passively. So yeah, so here it's time to play Son of Freyalise maybe, or I will see. Maybe, I don't know, I don't remember what I will do. Yeah, I decided to skip and actually keep Roska's Contempt to remove something that will enter the battlefield. Of course, opponent has 4 copies of the Pyromancer. So again, this deck is pretty similar to original deck that opponent played. The only difference is instead of Experimental Frenzy, 4 copies of Experimental Frenzy, and 4 copies of Goblin Chain Wrangler. So Goblin Chain Wrangler replaced by Gather Snipe here, 4 copies of Gather Snipe, which I had. And Experimental Frenzy replaced by a couple of different cards that basically will help us to... Okay, again, the same situation. It's pretty risky to play Tentriship Dryad right now, because again, opponent might have a removal at this point, but again, I can't gamble on that, and actually it's better to play it. Of course, I could remove all creatures with Ritual Suit, but here I believe it's better to... Let's see what I will do. I decided not to play. Yeah. And this turn decided to be cautious. So it forced the opponent into killing the only creature, because again opponent focuses on aggression, so instead of so that way opponent potentially could deal 4 damage if there's another direct spell there. As an answer to this, I decided to use Rusk's Contempt on pretty weak creature that already played its part. And here I don't have another choice. I mean, like, keep waiting. It's not ideal. Of course, opponent could have another shock, but again, let's hope that opponent played less shock. There's only 2 cards in the hand, and actually it's a good idea to play. So let's hope that opponent is not going to get shock any soon, and we will be able to produce proper amount of saprolines before we will. Okay, good, perfect. The situation is actually perfect at this point. So now we will be able to play Slime Food, and now if opponent will try to kill our saprolines, we will be able to basically deal excessive damage and gain additional lives, which is pretty sick. So again, in most cases this deck works only if Tendershoot Dryad strategy with the combination of the Slime Food will be realized. So it's probably would be a good idea to actually focus this deck more on this. Okay, perfect. So now even if opponent will kill Tendershoot Dryad, she will return, and we actually go to potentially win this match too, which is pretty sick. So again, the only way to fight against mono red is to... not the only way, there's multiple ways to fight against mono red, but one of the most probably efficient ways to fight against mono red is not to put threats early in play. Instead, force opponent to basically use all cards in hand, and if there's no additional draws, then opponent basically top decking, and when you rely on top decking, you might gain proper cards, you might not gain proper cards. It's kind of, yeah. So yeah, opponent basically played everything, decided to put even a land, because I guess there's no way to bluff. There's just no way. There's too many cards. And even if opponent had some type of a removal for Tendershoot Dryad, again, she will return right after killing, unless opponent will use, of course, something that could exile her. But I don't believe that this version of the deck that we're playing against, the red version of the deck, has Lava Coil. Maybe it has Lava Coil in sideboard, but it's not, definitely not. It's in not in its original state. So, and in most cases, both of these matches were original state of the decks. For 4 copies of Gather Snipes. So yeah, I basically got lucky. So now we utilized perfect strategy for this deck, and it actually worked. When I built this deck, I kind of hoped that in most cases we will repeat the strategy, but of course it all depends. This strategy is pretty unreliable in terms of, like, it could be interrupted pretty quickly. So for instance, again, if opponent would remove Tendershoot Dryad, we wouldn't be able to utilize this strategy. Saprolines would die out pretty quickly because there's would be a couple of them only. At some point we might use Ritual of Soot, of course, to kind of prolongate the game, but again, it's kind of a shame. So yep, this is kind of it, I guess. So yeah, there's not going to be anything else. So yeah, since this recording is kind of outside of the Undercity Coliseum community tournament, so again, it's kind of a part of it, because again, I still want to produce a 5-round match, but unfortunately, because of my opponent drops, I wasn't be able to produce any matches. So we're not even going to analyze any decks, because again, there's no point to analyze opponent's deck. I also don't want to reveal my opponent's name. I don't know, for personal reasons maybe, because opponent dropped out. I don't know. I don't know if opponent wants for me to mention his name or not, or her name. So because of this, it's better not to do that. So if you're interested, you will be able to check the name for the opponent if you will check out the standings and against whom I actually played. But personally, I don't want to do that. So instead, again, I decided to produce this match and name it. Name this episode not Undercity Coliseum Community Tournament, but still kind of a part of it. So we still needed to produce some type of a 5th round match in order to create a context how my deck could progress. And since I got win 2-0 by automatically, because of this I recorded 2 matches that I actually won with my deck against a similar type of mono red. Of course, it's a little bit different from the experimental frenzy mono red, because again, one of the pluses of the experimental frenzy version of the mono red deck is in the fact that it has constant draws. Once opponent will get to the stage of experimental frenzy or utilizing experimental frenzy, allows opponent to basically use his or her library as as a as a full, almost a hand, that not necessarily you will be able to control. Again, you will play with the top card, and if you have 2 lands, you're not going to be able to play both of them, of course, but in case you're not going to get mana flooded or with the top decking, you will be able to put lots of threats as long as you have mana for it. At some point, if you will draw a certain amount of cards, of course you can sacrifice Experimental Frenzy and play off of your cards from your hand. So it's actually a much more reliable deck than the one that I played against in this particular instance. But still, I believe that this deck was pretty good. And again, I played lots of matches before my deck actually won against this mono red. This mono red, even in this simpler state, killed almost all early threats. No matter how I tried to play, even this version of the mono red actually plays pretty good against this deck. So my version of the deck, the Nature Seekers, my Golgari version of the deck that I submitted for the tournament, it's definitely weak, unfortunately. So it's kind of a bummer. It's truly a bummer because I would want for this deck to be better, but again, I didn't. I don't know what I thought about when I submitted it. It's definitely weak. It's not effective. Like, I mean, I barely won 2 matches against a pretty weak mono red, which we played against tonight. So it was weird. So hopefully my deck will show itself better, but again, considering the fact what people are now staying in tournaments, because a lot of people are starting to drop out of the tournament nowadays because they are realizing that their decks are not up to the task to face a top decks, and because of this, I mean, most of the decks that will stay in the tournament are going to be pretty strong, and my deck is probably not going to hold up to the standard, unfortunately, of those decks. But again, I will still remain in the tournament. I don't have any intentions to drop. I will continue regardless of that. I will produce experience. I will give super awesome decks the best that I can. Even if I will completely be destroyed, I still want to kind of, I don't know, share experiences with other people, and even if I will lose most of them, it still will potentially give other people the experience of playing against certain types of decks. And who knows, maybe I will get lucky, an opponent got mana flooded and we actually going to win. Like, for instance, these 2 matches, one of the reasons why we won both of them in a pretty destructive fashion for the opponent was because opponent got mana flooded. So I guess in both cases, and didn't get proper cards. It could happen with every freaking deck. I mean, you never know. It's Magic. So hopefully in future matches we will get to this, and maybe, like, right now my current status is, if nothing will change, is basically 2 wins and 3 losses out of 5 rounds. So maybe I will at least get to 50% till the end of the tournament, or whatever, or will maybe even. Maybe, again, I'm not going to get into the top 8 100%, because the only way to get there is to either lose 0 matches or lose 1 match. So since I already lost 3, I'm not going to get to the finals nor semifinals. There's not going to be any semifinals, but still. So I'm not going to get to the top 8 100% sure. Especially with my deck, I wouldn't be able to do that regardless. But still, it was actually fun, and I will continue to play until the last round before elimination, and hopefully I will at least not going to lose all matches. So yeah. Hopefully that will be the case. So yeah, I guess as it sums it up, thank you for watching. If you like this video, give it a boost and invite your friends. If you want more, subscribe and set the bell note. Visit AleksTabletops on Twitch to be part of MTG Study live sessions. Have a nice day or night, and see you in the next Best of 3 Direct Challenge. Bye.